Oke. Iya, keren banget. Hah? Coba. Ya, kita absen dulu yang ada yang udah pakai ini ya. Di kelas tapi Zoom. Iya, keren banget. Hah? Oh, anuku. Sebentar. Coba. Ya, kita absen dulu yang ada yang udah pakai ini ya. Streaming. Di kelas tapi Zoom. Jadi hari ini kita pas kuliah ternyata LCD-nya nggak dapat. Ini streaming jadi direkam. Nah, LCD-nya nggak dapat. Kita tadinya pakai cara primitif. Satu laptop ditonton rame-rame. Tapi anak-anak nggak maunya ngezoom di ruangan yang sama. Kenang-kenangan kenang-kenangannya berkesan. Jadi kita mah kuota sisa-sisa di ruangan yang sama, kita ngezoom, zoomnya juga sisa-sisa. Zoom kita suka-suka. Oke, kita mulai perkuliahan ya. Pokoknya kalau ingat keadaan ini, ketawa. Kalau sampai terjadi sesuatu di luar kesempurnaan, karena tadi orang lain menggunakan alat ini yang kita nggak kebagian, ingat kalau Telsa atau saya, bodoh amat, kita tetap berjalan. Sebentar, oke. Oh, tuh, sorry, kita kembali ke sini. Saya mulai share ya, layar ya. Oke, mulai ya. Ini Le Corbusier. Dia seorang arsitek Swiss. Ini gampang, kalian bisa nyari nanti di Google. Tapi kenapa kenapa kita bahas Le Corbusier ini? Karena dia adalah salah satu tokoh penting yang menggerakkan arsitektur modern ke arah yang lebih jelas gitu ya. Jadi seberapa jelasnya itu tergambar dari 5 elemen yang sangat sederhana, tapi kalau dikembangkan itu menjadi sangat bagus dan unik serta memiliki keunggulan. Mungkin next ya. Nggak bisa next. Nah, ini dia selain arsitek, dia juga perencana kota, seniman, penulis gitu ya. Nah, ini adalah 3 vilanya ini adalah karya-karyanya, Villa Savoy dan macam-macam. Nanti kalian bisa cari. Yang mau saya bahas itu adalah Villa Savoy. Karena di sini kebetulan dia menerapkan 5 elemen arsitektur modern. Kalau dihafalin rumit, kalau dihafalin itu rumit. Tapi nanti dia kasih ini. Dia kasih, sebentar. Dia kasih sebuah video sederhana untuk kalian memahami. Ini Le Corbusier, kita tonton dulu ya anunya. Saya kasih ini 5 menit mengenai Le Corbusier. Sebelum nanti teorinya kita saksikan.
Charles Edward Jeanneret was born on the 6th of October 1887 and died on the 27th of August 1965. Charles Edward Jeanneret became known as Le Corbusier and rose to international fame as an architect, designer, painter, urban planner, writer, and the most influential pioneer of modern furniture. Without any formal education in architecture, Le Corbusier became a self-taught and accomplished architect, and in 1912 he designed and built a new house for his parents. This house led to further commissions to design and build imposing open-plan houses with his trademark style of maximizing space and natural light. Throughout the First World War, Le Corbusier took a teaching post at his old school in Les Choix de France. He became very interested in the efficiencies of construction using reinforced concrete as a building material. At the end of the war, Le Corbusier moved to Paris and started an architectural practice with his cousin Pierre Jeanneret, a successful partnership that would last 21 years. By 1930, Le Corbusier had established modernist architecture as a dominant European style, and he continued with his unique minimalism style throughout the next 2 decades, with numerous and varied commissions, from social housing to elaborate mansions. Le Corbusier invited Charlotte Perriand to join his studio as a furniture designer with his cousin Pierre Jeanneret. This was the start of a collaboration that would change the world of modern furniture design. Little did they know that their influence on modern designer furniture would still be as strong and popular today. Le Corbusier was inspired by Marcel Breuer and Mies van der Rohe, and proceeded designing and manufacturing furniture using tubular steel. Tubular steel was originally used for bicycles and was perfect for Le Corbusier's vision. A sculptural technique of design incorporating curved steel tubes to define minimalistic style furniture. The first results of the collaboration between Le Corbusier and Perriand were 3 pieces of furniture made with chrome-plated tubular steel frames. The LC4 chaise longue, an adjustable bed built in a shape designed for relaxation. Le Corbusier took the idea that the purest form and absolute function should result in the ultimate level of comfort. The functional awareness of the design is attributed in the stability of the frame, because at any angle of inclination the frame remains stable. The LC3 Grand Comfort is a minimalism style club chair and sofa with a tubular steel frame with unconnected cushions suspended across elasticated strap. The Le Corbusier LC2 are armchairs and sofas with the trademark Le Corbusier steel frame, supporting loose cushions based on elasticated straps. The LC2 represented the new and modern conception of designer furniture. Today, the Le Corbusier LC2, LC3 and LC4 remain as the most iconic designer pieces ever created. However, they were very expensive. Le Corbusier had always intended that his furniture be affordable for everyone to enjoy. This was not the case, as all early production models were very expensive, and decades later, when the license to manufacture was purchased by Cassina, Le Corbusier furniture collections remained extremely expensive and only available to a minority. Le Corbusier was praised and criticised in equal amounts, and he had many rivals, but in reality, none had the same significant effect on the revolution of modern designer furniture or architecture as Le Corbusier. His vision was inflexible, his determination autocratically firm, and his arguments simplistic. His career spanned 5 decades, and he designed buildings in Europe, Japan, India, and North and South America. But for most people, whether they be admirers or critics, the lasting memory of Le Corbusier will be with the LC2 furniture collection. Never in the history of modern designer furniture has there been a piece of furniture that has given so much artistic pleasure as the LC2, or inspired future generations of modern furniture designers to aspire to the pure genius of Le Corbusier.
Oke. Kita kembali ke PPT-nya ya. Ini nanti buat video ini ditonton, kalian nonton sendiri aja karena ini cukup panjang, nanti kita kehabisan waktu. Jadi ini pemikiran Le Corbusier tentang arsitektur. Jadi tadi kalau ngelihat video tadi ya, bagaimana dia berpikir tentang efisiensi tidak hanya pada bangunan tetapi pada interior, bahkan kepada mebel-mebelnya. Jadi kalian bisa bandingin antara mebel-mebel yang zaman klasik dengan yang tadi dibuat oleh Le Corbusier. Dia mulai berpikir bentuk-bentuk yang enak, yang nyaman, ketinggian yang ergonomis dan sebagainya. Itu menjadi bagian penting dari keseluruhan konsep arsitektur modern di dalam karyanya. Ini 4 video ini, yang satu tentang, ini 1-4 ya. Satu tentang pemikiran Le Corbusier yang tadi, yang modern, kemudian bagaimana dia menghubungkan dengan tinggalan-tinggalan klasik Roma, kemudian bagaimana proyeknya tentang perkotaan, yang dia menganggap sebuah kota itu sebagai mesin, semua ada sistemnya, ada bagiannya yang bekerja. Kemudian yang terakhir dia bicara tentang evolusi, perubahan perlahan-lahan. Ini nanti kalian tonton sendiri, panjang banget gitu ya, tak loncatin aja. Nah ini 5 prinsip arsitektur modern, dibaca dulu, kalau belum paham nanti ada videonya yang lebih sederhana. Kita baca dulu, ya, satu tuh pilotis, adalah kolom-kolom yang menyangga bangunan di atas tanah. Nah ini memungkinkan bangunan didirikan itu di atas tanah yang tidak rata, jadi mau berkontur mau kayak apa gitu, kalau dikasih kolom dulu, kemudian bangunannya di atasnya, nah itu dia akan setelah lah terus PW ya. Hah? Oke. Kalau yang lain mah nggak judak, langsung ngobrol sakarpe. Selain itu, prinsip pilotis itu memungkinkan kamu malah sibuk ngurus itu nanti ketinggalan materi loh. Ini paling yang penting ini. Prinsip pilotis itu memungkinkan penempatan ruang terbuka di bawah bangunan karena tadi kolom bangunannya diangkat, memberikan fleksibilitas dalam penggunaan lahan. Itu prinsip pertama. Yang kedua, ribbon windows. Ribbon itu kan pita ya. Jadi jendelanya tuh bisa manjang kayak pita ngelingkeri gitu. Jadi bangunannya bisa kayak hadiah ulang tahun tuh. Jendela-jendela panjang membentang sepanjang sisi bangunan. Prinsip ini memungkinkan cahaya alami jadi masuk gitu kan. Nah, kok bisa Bu bikin ribbon windows? Karena sebetulnya itu nyambungnya ke kolom tadi. Jadi kolomnya itu bisa dipisah kolom dan dinding itu dipisah sehingga dindingnya lepas dari kolom, kemudian dindingnya itu bisa dibikin ribbon windows tadi, jendela yang kayak pita ngelilingi bangunan. Kemudian yang ketiga itu rooftop garden, taman di atas bangunan yang memungkinkan penggunaan lahan terbatas untuk ruang hijau. Jadi Le Corbusier saat itu sudah menyatakan bahwa lahan yang kita ambil untuk bangunan itu sebaiknya dikembalikan, gitu kan, tanahnya itu dengan cara membuat taman di atas, open floor plan, menghilangkan dinding-dinding yang membatasi antar ruang. Jadi blong-blongan, mana yang sekarang kan kita tahu ruang tamu, kemudian ruang tamu nyambung sama ruang keluarga, nyambung ruang makan, gitu kan. Nah ini open floor plan ini baru diinspirasikan oleh Le Corbusier waktu itu, menghilangkan dinding sehingga menciptakan ruang yang lebih terbuka dan fleksibel. Open plan memungkinkan penataan furniture, kemudian fasad libre menghilangkan pemisah antara struktur. Nah, memisahkan antara struktur kolom dengan dinding ini itu memungkinkan ruangannya terbuka, memungkinkan ribbon windows gitu kan. Karena tadi ini 5, nggak usah diapalin. Mari kita menonton videonya. Ini video yang ini dulu aja. Nah, ini fokus, jangan gerak-gerak, jangan pindah-pindah karena dia menggambarkan mengenai 5 prinsip itu di dalam denah. Jadi kalau kalian memahami itu bagian dari pekerjaan kalian sebagai arsitek, kalian langsung bisa otomatis menghafalkan 5 prinsip itu. Gak ada suaranya emang. menggambarkan zoningnya. Jadi tadi kan gambarkan 5 prinsip, kemudian 5 prinsip itu kalian perhatikan ya atau pembuatan denahnya. Dan sekali lagi sebetulnya ini yang pertama, sebelum membuat denah itu kan kalian harus paham dulu zoning ya, pengelompokannya. Nah ini zoningnya saya putarkan di sini karena dia pakai bahasa Perancis, jadi saya putarnya belakangan. Oke, nggak pakai suara dia. Sama, ini Villa Savoy. Tadi yang karya Le Corbusier yang disebut di depan. Kolomnya dulu. Tapi sebelum kolomnya dulu sebenarnya di benak arsitek sudah harus tahu zoning. Karena zoning kan lahir dari analisis pengguna dan aktivitas. Nah itu sudah ada zoning tuh kuning, itu satu zone. Itu kayaknya ruang semi public deh kuning itu. Itu satu zone ya warna. Dipasang aja ya LCD-nya ya. Setelah ini kita kembali ke kehidupan normal. Supaya kalian bisa menghasilkan pertanyaan dan diskusi yang kritis. Ya LCD-nya pasang aja ya di sana. Dan kita kembali ke kehidupan normal. Kalian udah tutup aja Zoom-nya. Gak enak aku mereng gitu. Oh. Ya, live ya. Tapi tetap saya buka nggak apa-apa. Saya tadi yang udah buka nih. Dava mana Dava? Dava mana nih? Kok kamu udah buka puasa sih, Dav? Bisakah saya mendapat? Nggak nyampe? Oh, sini ya, depan nggak ada masuk?
Nggak ada, Bu. Ya depan kan yang sana, Bu.
Oh, jadi dia enggak. Harusnya kelasnya juga dibalik ya, klip-klipan. Sampai? Oke. Ya, siap-siap materi diskusi. Kalau berminat mendapatkan voucher. Ini masih bertahan di dalam Zoom ya? Udah bisa pakai LCD. Nah, konverter ke mana? Ini udah pada absen? Oke. Oke. Berarti ini berarti udah pertemuan ke-7. Oke, pertemuan ke-7 hari ini kan? Hari ini pertemuan ke-7 kan? Karena kemarin kan online ya. Nah, pertemuan ke-7 itu pertemuan besok ke-8 kita sudah UTS. Gitu. Jadi semua poster dan presentasi udah siap. UTS itu pemeriksaan bahan hukum. Loh, kok nggak kelihatan? Ini padahal udah ini loh. Bentar, biasanya udah. Kok dia tampilannya nggak bisa besar ya? Dia nggak bisa besar ya? Oke lah, wis. Bisa kebaca nggak sih? Bisa dah. Ini fakta mengenai Villa Savoy. Greget iki file tak kirim lewat BA wae yo. Cengcong tenan. Oh. Ada apa sama baju tuh? Aduh. Itu dia. Mau masuk Zoom lagi terserah deh pening ini. Oke, ya, oke. Ternyata kita yang tidak cerdik. Berarti kalian semua nanti sebelum kuliah mengeksplorasi ini. Beneran loh, ini kan sudah teknologi yang lama, tapi kita selalu bergantung pada staf kan. Padahal kalau kamu di lapangan nanti kan harus berhadapan ini. Makanya mumpung ada latihan semua canggih. Bersiaplah kamu nanti magang, bekerja dengan siapapun di lapangan kamu bisa. Ini fakta tentang Villa Savoy. Bangunan ikonik dirancang Le Corbusier tahun 28 sampai 31, terletak di kota Poissy. Dia memiliki atap datar, dirancang untuk menjadi rooftop. Jadi kalau Villa Savoy itu menggunakan atap datar memang karena konsepnya dia ya, karena atapnya digunakan tadi kata dia menggantikan lahan yang sudah kita gunakan untuk dibangun, lahan hijaunya itu diganti di atas. Didesain sebagai rumah keluarga dengan gaya arsitektur modern yang inovatif, terdiri dari 3 tingkat. Tadi kita sudah melihat videonya. Contoh arsitektur modern yang paling terkenal, benar ya, jelas. Kalian tidak bisa baca juga ya? Hah? Ya, oke dah ya. Kalau saya dianggap sebagai, coba nanti tak tes aku baca yang lain, kalian mudeng ora. Oh, berarti Villa Savoy dianggap sebagai contoh arsitektur modern paling terkenal gitu kan. Dan ini bangunan ini menjadi simbol dari prinsip-prinsip memprioritaskan fungsi dan praktis. Jadi kalian tadi lihat kenapa dinaikkan supaya lantai satunya bisa bebas pergerakan. Kemudian tadi kenapa dindingnya dilepaskan dari kolom supaya tadi bisa bukaan besar panjang gitu kan. Kemudian fasadnya bisa bebas. Kemudian kenapa atapnya datar karena itu dipakai untuk penghijauan gitu. Jadi kalian nanti kalau tugas akhir misalnya ada atap datar gitu pasti kalau di sini masalahnya adalah kalian nggak tropis gitu kan. Nah, kalau kalian mau menggunakan jawaban ya tadi tidak tropis tapi ada fungsi yang lebih prioritas. Misalnya tadi karena kalian mau dijadikan apa namanya tadi entah taman, entah apa gitu kan. Nah, kemudian bangunan ini memiliki tampilan yang bersih, minimalis, warna putih gitu kan. Tadi kita udah tonton. Nah, terus kemudian ini tadi, nah ini adalah beberapa karya. Jadi di video berikutnya itu karya-karya Le Corbusier yang menyangkut tentang kota juga, menyangkut tentang hunian massal gitu ya. Nah, mari kita saksikan.
Charles-Édouard Jeanneret, Le Corbusier, French-Swiss architect, considered the most influential architect of the 20th century. Through his works, there is a constant evolution that ranges from white and purist residences to social housing blocks and government buildings. Le Corbusier's architectural work is a sign of an unprecedented exchange of influences, which spread on a worldwide scale, in connection with the birth and development of the modern movement. This double house belongs to the series of residences made by the architect in Paris during the 1920s. In them, Le Corbusier experimented with the instrumental and conceptual principles that he would develop in parallel throughout the successive prototypes. An articulated composition is generated from the addition of an elongated rectangular volume to another arranged at 90 degrees with respect to the previous one. The L-shaped layout features a combination of curved and straight elevations, determined by the surrounding environment. Part of the complex is raised on pilatus and another sits on the ground. Regulatory paths act as a geometric means to define the position of the windows and give proportion to the plastic composition. A roof garden is enlivened with a variety of species of trees and flowers. By taking advantage of an ideal gallery house program, the architect introduces the concept of an architectural promenade into the interior space, which will allow multiple and surprising perspectives along the way, enhanced by natural lighting from a variety of windows. Some windows are illuminated, others are dimmed. There is an alternation of light and shadow, as well as a tense harmony that results from the connection between the interior and the exterior. The architectural ensemble on the outside is neutral, but with all the surprise contained inside. Le Corbusier defines polychromy by painting some walls blue and those in full light red, among other colors. The white allows to affirm the exact presence of the external volume, and the polychromy separates the planes and diminishes the shadows projected against the walls. Paradigm work of 20th century architecture. The Villa Savoye rises in the center of a property, surrounded by a large grove. In this work, Le Corbusier exposes a set of terms that constitute his formal language, and to a certain extent, the formal language of modern architecture. At Villa Savoye, Le Corbusier exemplifies his ideal of the house as machine habiter, a machine for living. The house is functional like a machine, and beauty derives from that functionality in such a way that the activities of daily life in it synthesizes and encodes the 5 points for a new architecture, on which the Corbusian architectural language is based. A parallelepiped forms the volumetric composition. It rests on a base, and seems to be suspended on a structure of reinforced concrete pilatus, arranged in an orthogonal grid, and at a continuous distance. A pure, rigid and sober volume that hangs in the air, it seems to be floating. By moving away from the ground, it shows us the tree over nature. This distancing falls on the second level. On the contrary, the service rooms and garages are distributed on the ground floor. A ramp interconnects the different levels of the villa. It is located on the axis of the project and becomes the backbone of it. It shows us a dynamic step and a gradual expansion of the space as it goes up. The path of the ramp culminates in the terrace, where the house, freed from functional commitments, becomes an almost poetic space. The Swiss Foundation has commissioned an enclosure to solve the accommodation problem for Swiss university students. Le Corbusier conceived the solution by organizing the student rooms in a parallelepiped with 4 floors measuring 49 meters by 9 meters, suspended on pilatus and extending along its longitudinal axis to the east-west. The work clearly consists of 2 different volumes. On the one hand, the parallelepiped-shaped pavilion that contains the students' bedrooms, and, on the other, the free form that contains the meeting areas, the set of individual spaces and the social space. The volume of bedrooms is separated from the ground by means of large concrete columns. The Marseille Housing Units project represents the materialization of a vertical housing prototype based on the balance between the individual and the collective. Supported by robust pilatus, the unit takes the form of a horizontal bar 160 meters long, arranged north-south direction, in order to achieve greater light efficiency. The building consists of 500 apartments on 17 levels. Every 3rd floor, the architect had an interior corridor in order to distribute the complex of apartments on both sides. Through the lower level, those that are located to the west, it is entered through the upper floor. This cross system allows all homes to have eastern and western facades for the benefit of sunlight, cross ventilation and visuals. Floors 7 and 8 correspond to elevated public streets and house the basic shops to satisfy the needs of the residents. The use of Le Modular's red and blue series is evident in the basic dimensions of the cells, both in plan and elevation. The terrace garden of the unit is conceived as an instrument for viewing the surrounding landscape. In addition to this factor, the civic character of the roof is enhanced due to the presence of facilities such as a nursery, a gym, a swimming pool and an open-air theater. The ventilation ducts in the engine rooms represented in imposing concrete blocks subject the visitor to tensions and contemplative pauses. In this domestic project, carried out for Dr. Kurichet, the explorations of the 5 points for a new architecture are retaken, which should reach climax 2 decades earlier in the Villa Savoye. The house is located on a piece of land which includes the owner's office, is divided into 2 volumes. In the background, the doctor's office is allocated, while, in the front part, the service areas, an internal staircase and a patio. Both main bodies are linked by a ramp that connects the ground floor with the mezzanine. In the void between the volumes, there is a tree and a series of slender columns that outline a grid to the limit of the terrain. At street level, public and private space are separated by a fence and an access door, confined between a concrete frame. The outbuildings of the house are arranged on the third level in a double-height recessed volume, which creates a terrace facing the street, partially sheltered by a trapezoidal roof and deep parasols. Inside the house and the office, the color white predominates, while the doors, niches, and carpentry elements have color variations. Relevant work of religious architecture, the Chapel of Ronsham, was conceived by Le Corbusier for a group of Poor Clare nuns who longed to rebuild their pilgrimage center, sitting lonely on a hill overlooking the small French city, and devastated as a result of the bombings of war. The work stands out for the sculptural value of its volumes and the dramatic interior space that it configures. A reinterpretation of the Christian basilica plan is presented. The contours of the nave are deformed and an unusual transept is outlined on one of the flanks, topped by curvilinear chapels. Polychrome stained glass windows are incorporated together with surfaces painted with intense colors. A beam of light filters through a gap between the concrete deck and the walls that apparently support it. The internal, mystical and tenuous atmosphere differs with the predominantly white aspect of the exterior volume, where only the roof contrasts, in the manner of a thick and slightly convex shell. Towards the east there is an open-air altar, sheltered by the cantilevered part of the roof, where a cubic concrete pulpit and a cantilevered choir stand out. To the west, there are two chapels, with their apses facing each other and mediated by a gargoyle that leads the water to a sinuous pool. To the north there is a low wall in the staircase that communicates with the internal choir. To the south, the most iconic image of the project is presented, the wide wall pierced by stained glass windows, and framed on one of its sides by a volume, which evokes the figure of a bell tower. After the division of India and Pakistan, the state of Punjab required a new capital. Le Corbusier projects an urban center, the nucleus of which will house the government district, seat of political power. The district is organized from large masses of buildings connected to each other through compositional axes that structure the open spaces. At one end of the complex stands the Palace of Justice. It consists of a prism with a rectangular plan, where a large reinforced concrete portico is configured. The volume is divided into two blocks, which house the seat of the Supreme Court and a row of 8 courtrooms respectively. 3 large concrete pillars that span the height of the building have the function of separating the 2 blocks. These elements are retracted from the outer panel of the portico, thus creating a canopy, with the aim of reducing the solar incidence on the rooms. On the opposite side of the government district is the Secretariat building. It is an elongated horizontal volume, built entirely in apparent concrete and divided into 6 blocks of 8 floors. It houses various government offices. A pair of sculptural ramps provide vertical circulation through the building levels. The extensive front and rear facades of the building are made up of a series of perforations that house small square windows and are framed by rows of parasols, used to mitigate sunlight. The openings are rhythmically modulated, and the massiveness of the facades is reduced. The Palace of the Assembly is the most complex building in the government district. It is a compilation of the plastic experiences of Le Corbusier. The volume is made up of a large rectangular block, to which is attached a hyperbolic paraboloid and an irregular pyramid, corresponding to the legislative chambers. The building is accessed through a gargantuan portico formed by screen pillars that support an imposing concave roof, whose function is to pour the monsoon water into the 2 ponds that frame the entrance. Dominican convent located near Lyon, on a piece of land that slopes gently to the south. The ensemble seems to follow the Orton plan originating from the Benedictine rule. The cloister merges with the land on which the cubic and gray building stands, supported by concrete screens as pilatus. The collective program runs on 2 levels along the eastern, western, and southern sides. The refectory in the western side stands out. On the north flank, and slightly dilated from the rest of the complex, stands the church, in appearance, a hermetic volume of raw concrete, where light effects are used to create a dramatic atmosphere, through skylights with surf that break into the gloom of the sinuous crypt on the north side and the sacristy. The bell tower is only perceptible from the outside, a concrete frame mounted on 2 trapezoidal screens. The cells destined for the monks are distributed in the last 2 levels of the building, and cover 3 sides of it. They are organized in a traditional way, by means of circulations turned over the great cloister, which causes all the rooms to be oriented towards the outside of the complex. Le Corbusier. His architectural work is directly and materially associated with the ideas of the modern movement, whose theories and creations had extraordinary universal significance throughout the 20th century. What do you think of the work of this great and controversial architect? Any work that you would like us to analyze in depth? We would love to hear your opinion. We also invite you to subscribe to the channel and help us share the video. For your attention, thank you very much. See you next time.
Arsitektur modern kemudian minimalis, tapi kan di dalamnya penuh dengan konsep gitu ya. Nah, kemudian udah siap-siap bikin pertanyaan. Ini berapa menit ya? Ini sketsa. Ini sketsanya diakui oleh UNESCO sebagai warisan budaya, menjadi sesuatu hal yang penting untuk kita semua tahu karena itu adalah bagian dari peradaban saat ini. Jadi cara berpikir ini, sketsa-sketsa ini dianggap penting oleh UNESCO. Baru sketsa ya, kebayang ya sih, sketsa bisa dianggap sangat penting.
Le Corbusier dreamed of being a painter, but it was as an architect that he undeniably made his mark. From 1920 to 1960, he helped forge a new architectural language that broke with the past. This World Heritage listing honors not the man, but his outstanding contribution in response to the architectural and urban challenges that fed into the modern movement, which is still the foundation for much 21st century architectural thinking. It does not honor an exemplary achievement at a given moment, but an outstanding body of built and written proposals steadfastly disseminated around the world over half a century. The 17 influential works and sites comprising this transnational serial property are located in Germany, Argentina, Belgium, France, India, Japan, and Le Corbusier's country, Switzerland. In 1924, on a thin plot of land in Causeux on the shore of Lake Geneva, he built a house for his parents who could no longer afford to employ household staff. Built on a budget, the 64 square meter building is an early expression of the minimalist needs that Le Corbusier would further refine in 1951 with his cabanon in Roquebrune Cap Martin. With its 11-meter wide window, open plan and roof terrace, the Petite Villa au bord de les Mains prefigures that most iconic building of the modern movement, the Villa Savoy. In 1930, in Geneva, Le Corbusier set out to design an apartment building for the middle classes. His close collaboration with Edmond Warner a locksmith and metal craftsman, resulted in a number of design innovations. Load-bearing metal pillars to free up the facades for windows to let in a maximum of natural light. The Clarté building, a demonstration of Le Corbusier's ability to rethink building methods to meet the social and human needs of modern man. It was in Marseille that his theory of a machine for living in was scaled up in a major housing project in the form of the Unité d'Habitation, the Radiant City. The 17 sides of the serial property are spread over 3 continents, reflecting the internationalization of Le Corbusier's architectural practices and his global influence. Considered as a whole, they illustrate 4 core characteristics of the modern movement. They sparked tremendous debate, ushered in a new architectural language, revolutionized building techniques, and responded to the social and human needs of the modern era.
Gambarnya sederhana, idenya ya. Ini tentang kota yang dia berpikir kehidupan untuk kota ini dirancang untuk sebuah kehidupan di masa depan. Jadi ya di sekitar kita sekarang, tapi dia dibangun jauh sebelum.
The actual problem is
Sekarang udah ini kan kurang masih 20 menit ya. Udah boleh mulai kalau yang mau memperebutkan voucher udah boleh nulis di grup. Nanti formnya tak buatkan dulu terus nulis di bawah ya. Nulis di bawah nanti dipilih. Hah? Kenapa?
to find again the condition of nature.
Settingnya dulu dirubah. Tapi kemarin tuh pertanyaannya bagus-bagus loh yang kelas BC itu. Saya antara gini loh, kalau ada pancingannya bagus ya pertanyaannya gitu ya. Waduh, ini. Terus saya mikir lagi, kan memang harus begitu ya. Makanya Allah menjanjikan surga. Karena ada janjinya itu, makanya orang berbuat baik. Begitu dijanjikan kemarin tuh pertanyaan bagus-bagus tuh anak yang kelas BC. Saya sampai, maksudnya butuh waktu gitu ya untuk menjawab satu persatu. 17 kalau nggak salah.
The actual problem is to find again the condition of nature. And the answer is the major problem of today and tomorrow, the proper occupation of the land.
Charles-Edouard Jeanneret, aka Le Corbusier, was an architectural triple threat. He built, he wrote, he painted. He was a person truly obsessed with all things spatial. And even though only a small fraction of what he designed was actually realized, Le Corbusier is all over our built environment. This is because he had strong opinions and a never-ending array of proposals for how our planet should be designed at all scales, from chairs to metropolises. In the world of the spatial arts, Le Corbusier is a deeply polarizing figure. This is no wonder, because he was polarizing at the core of his character. He was an obsessively orderly man who also happened to be a creative genius. Some of the world's most interesting, but also most despicable people are kind of like that, stubbornly remaining outside of boxes while compulsively trying to sort everything else into them. Was he an authoritarian egomaniac, or just a visionary with impeccable taste? Here, a fracture occurs within the building professions. Architects love their corbu, while city planners despise it completely. Countless failed projects and flawed premises about how to build a city are blamed on him. In any case, it is important to understand the foundations of his ideas, for they transformed our environment, for better or worse. Input 1. Ideal geometry. The most important thing to understand about Le Corbusier is his deep-seated faith in the redemptive power of ideal geometry. If the plan was right, if it was generated according to the universal principles of geometry, it will bring harmony and balance to all aspects of life. This was Le Corbusier's only true ideology. This is why he had no problem engaging with diametrically opposite political regimes throughout his career. The only thing of real importance was to realize the plan. Everything else was details and irrelevant in comparison. Input 2. Paris. Le Corbusier moved to Paris when he was around 30 years old, and he lived there for the rest of his life. The shape of Paris is an interplay between the exuberant and messy energy of its everyday life and the tradition of a powerful hand coming forth and imposing order into the urban fabric. Le Corbusier loved the city. Its shape defined and refined him on so many levels. But by the time he arrived, some time had passed since the Haussmann reconstruction, and the raw chaos of life was prevailing again. Le Corbusier could hardly resist the urge to sort it all out. Input 3. Technology. At the core, a lot of Le Corbusier's designs were about him taking a new technological innovation to its extreme logical conclusion, but with a ton of style. The fact of the high-rise building means that a given size can be multiplied many times, achieved with only a small piece of the ground covered. This way, the land is freed from oppression by buildings and can be turned into healthy green parks. The fact of mechanical transportation means that the traditional street is obsolete. A modern town will have to be built around new channels of transportation. Trying to make streets for everyone that kill pedestrians and stifle traffic. From 1922 to 1933, Le Corbusier developed his ideas through a series of 3 iconic plans. These ideas will culminate in the Athens Charter, a manifesto about how to build a good city. In 1922, 35-year-old Le Corbusier exhibited at an avant-garde art and design show in Paris. He presented a plan for a contemporary city of 3 million inhabitants. This ideal modern city was to be built on a clean slate. Le Corbusier ridiculed architects' fear of a blank slate site.
Oke. Gimana? Tadi mau tanya apa kamu? Sudah teratasi. Nah, ini satu lagi yang masih bicara tentang Le Corbusier dan beberapa karyanya yang genrenya sudah mendekati yang zaman sekarang. Nanti yang terakhir saya share kalian tentang metaverse yang kemarin saya tunjukin mahasiswa pakai itu. Nah, ini saya tunjukin video itu. Nah, ini sudah mulai bisa alamat. Nah, ini kenapa nggak bisa yo? Loh. Lah, kenapa dia tidak bisa? Tiba-tiba dia terputus hubungannya. Oh, ini udah oh iya. Bentar. Ini bagus banget loh. Dia mulai berpikir
Selain secara instalasi
Indonesia
dan
lagi.
nyaman, kami berusaha untuk mewadahi sebuah platform edukasi untuk saling berbagi dan berdiskusi tentang keilmuan berarsitektur. Seniman ruang kali ini menerjemahkan desain pavilion dengan teknik anyaman dari bioliving untuk menghasilkan structural effect dan pattern yang menarik. Kami mencoba untuk merekonstruksi esensi dari karya-karya Le Corbusier yang dituangkan ke dalam bentuk yang terinspirasi dari irisan Villa Savoy dan Roncam Chapel. Kami juga menghadirkan
Diolah lagi
sebuah
menjadi
perubahan pengalaman ruang dari luar ke dalam, di mana kalau di luar kita bisa merasakan bentuk persegi dari komposisi, dan ketika kita masuk ke dalam ruang eksibisi berubah menjadi sebuah bentuk lingkaran. Instalasi ini merupakan sebuah instalasi kolaborasi dari bioliving, nanon ruang, dan seniman ruang, disupport oleh beberapa kolaborator lain seperti Ere Luce, Japan Indo Makmur, Mega Interior, dan Kaplan.
dia
RID kali ini dengan harapan pengunjung dapat belajar lebih dari Le Corbusier. Selama ini kita mengenal Le Corbusier sebagai ikon modernisme, tetapi kalau kita melihat karya-karyanya melalui paket-paket dan narasinya, kita bisa melihat ruang-ruangnya, kemudian bagaimana dia meletakkan sirkulasi, itu beyond modernisme.
paketnya bagus padahal sederhana, bahannya murah ya. Saya pengen loh kalian belajar begini. Enggak rumit gitu. Nah, simpel banget. Nah, sekarang yang terakhir nih. Yang terakhir adalah metaverse. Tuh, apa? Ini kok hilang. Internetnya.
A virtual world
Ini kita melihat kayak apa sih mahasiswa arsitektur di masa depan. Jadi kalau kamu mungkin udah nggak butuh maket, karena desainmu tuh nanti orang udah bisa masuk ke ruang virtual dan udah tahu kayak apa ruangannya. Keren banget ya. Makanya yang sekarang masih masih nggak yakin mau jadi arsitek mau nggak atau enggak dan gimana nih. Mudah-mudahan kalian terinspirasi. Angga lama 16 menit kita masih punya waktu. Kita nggak punya waktu lagi ya. Mau nonton ini atau diskusi? Kalau mau nonton ini diskusinya lewat grup kayak anak kelas B kemarin. Nonton aja ya, diskusinya lewat grup aja ya, kan vouchernya masih dipakai nanti sore. Belum harus sekarang. Sebentar, udah tak setting tadi Indonesia. Prinsip dan tergantung konteks. Jadi gini, kalau aku punya ide gitu kan belum tentu terrealisir. Ya kan? Kalau prinsip kan itu sudah harus pokoknya apapun menggunakan prinsip ini, gitu kan. Prinsip udah termasuk dalam ciri khas gitu. Masih perlu diolah gitu kan, belum terrealisir.
A virtual
menonton ini aja,
world where
16 menit
people
nih.
would use digital avatars to live, work, and play online. He called it the metaverse.
This piece of land with Snoop Dogg's face on it is owned by the rapper. He's building a virtual mansion on it.
Metaverse is catching on. People are going crazy for it. But one of the biggest impacts of it is that it is changing and shifting industries. From, of course, gaming and entertainment to tourism, to workspaces, and even architecture. I had made a whole video about how architecture will change with the onset of the metaverse. But the truth is, it has been evolving for quite some time.
Companies like Meta, aka Facebook, are betting billions of dollars on the hope that virtual reality is the future of human interaction.
The technologies that make up the metaverse, mainly VR, AR, MR, and XR, have been here for quite some time. It is only recently that they've got this makeover and have come under the umbrella term of the metaverse. And suddenly, so many people have joined the bandwagon. Today in this video, we are exploring architects who've already taken steps towards a metaverse before it became a mainstream thing. We are going to be looking at 3 stories where the underlying technologies of the metaverse have been used to change how we design, construct, and perceive architecture. Welcome to Blessed Arc, and today on this video, we are talking about the architects of the metaverse. When I say the word metaverse, what might come to your head is this digital animated world full of saturated colors, interactive things, and flying advertisements. Basically, people think the metaverse will be a completely virtual reality that can be experienced by different gadgets. This is exactly the kind of metaverse that people over at companies like Facebook are trying to create.
These companies just decided to move us all into the metaverse like they're putting their grandma into a nursing home. Sorry, Nana, you have to live in the computer now.
But the thing is, this world of Facebook will most probably be very close to our reality. Basically, it might look like a combination of the world you already live in with Instagram. It might feel exciting because of its underlying technology, but maybe not so much in its design. And the reason for that might just be that architects are not at the core of this new world building. But what if they were? What if architects could create a digital world where achieving the impossible might just be any other day?
But I definitely think that moving forward, metaverse as a whole, there's so many other possibilities within what we can do to this that be scripted or coded into what we want to do.
This is Mateus Tenkachi. He's the co-founder of the design firm Sunken Flame. And he has created this virtual stage, a VR space where people from all over the world can come together, connect, and share ideas.
So the stage would be this virtual space where we can come together, host conversations, presentations, and start experimenting on how to actually engage with a group of people in virtual reality, which is a conversation that's been going on for a while, and how to present, right? Even presenting projects like we present on architecture and do reviews and all of that. How do you do that in a virtual space where the rules of physics and how things can actually operate can be completely different?
So yes, the idea of meeting virtually is not novel. But as we move towards a virtual reality for all, the design of this new world does matter. Similar to how the design of the built environment around you matters.
From a design standpoint, it's one single surface that bends around and makes the audience, and makes the stage, and makes the covering, makes the pillars. And there's no really like a difference between what's stage, what's floor, what's audience. Everything flows together. So it gives at least the feeling that you can walk up the stage at any point. Presenters and audience have the same role in this. So that is what we started from.
And this vision of his is not just limited to this one stage. This, as he says, is version 1.
Different than an architecture project, building a physical building, you get people's experience when the job is done. Then you can take that as information and move on, and the knowledge for the next project. But now, in something like this, you can take the feedback and keep updating and reiterating the project, because it's a different approach. It's an ongoing space thing.
What's fascinating is that at the center of this stage, the main crux of it is design. He constantly works on improving and changing his versions, updating them to fit the needs of the users.
The question of even accessibility in design, right? In physical life, right? In the physical world, we have accessibility in terms of people with disabilities. So let's say wheelchairs, that's a classic example, right? Buildings have to have access for those who cannot, climb up the stairs. But in the metaverse or virtual spaces, a wheelchair for example is not a problem. You can have a staircase. However, there's other types of accessibility issues that should be taken into consideration. And right now, it's not really the main point of conversation in virtual spaces. However, some people are more sensitive to strobe lights, having seizures with strobe lights. And then some materials or some virtual spaces that have lights flashing or materials flickering, that can cause problems. And what we're talking about here is that this virtual space is good know who you are based on your profile. And that space is really different for you based on your requirements or preferences. So maybe disability is not designing a space that serves all, but designing a system that can modify depending on what you need.
At the end of the day, the profession of architecture is about solving problems through design. In a virtual world, the problems will be different, and so will the solutions. So even in this world of endless possibilities, we still have restrictions, just like the physical world. And hopefully, as we move towards a better and better virtual reality, we'll have more and more architects get more creative with their creations. But after seeing this project, the design stage, and hearing all the news about this metaverse, a new question comes to mind. Will the new world order be completely virtual? Now, hey, before we move ahead, I actually wanted to talk to you about the sponsors of today's video, 1:X. Now, 1:X is a platform that can give you the digital skills that one requires to be an architect. They have an array of courses that can teach you different skill sets for your career. One of these is their BIM course. Now, BIM is to the architecture industry, what Metaverse is to the tech industry. With 1:X's BIM course, you can learn from industry professionals working in top firms and also get to work on a live project. And the best part is after you're done, they give you placement support as well. So if you want to take your career to the next level, do check out 1:X. You can find the links in the description. And now let's get back to our video.
This is it. I'm going into the ultranet to save my daughter.
Just like we spend hours and hours in a day on our phones and computers, will we also do it in the new virtual realm? And will more and more architects start gravitating towards building these new and fantastic forms? Will the profession start getting dominated by these so-called virtual architects? Well, some people think not. For one, the technologies that will make it immersive and more easily accessible are a few years away.
But Cambria will be a completely new, advanced, and high-end product, and it'll be at the higher end of the price spectrum too.
But there are also people who see this metaverse as something very different. They do not see it as a completely new world that you just escape to. They actually see it as a new layer of reality that can be added over the existing one. Imagine architecture that blends with technology to create immersive solutions. For example, what if me, a client, could completely experience what my new space will look like instead of just seeing a few renders on a computer screen? Well, this is exactly what a firm in India tried to do for their clients. This is ARPM Design and Research from Gurgaon, India. Their experiment with the underlying technologies of the metaverse actually happened out of necessity.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है।
India has become the latest and largest country to introduce a nationwide lockdown in the fight against the coronavirus.
Now, the world changed in the year 2020, and the field of architecture was affected as well. For these guys, the problem with their latest project is that they could not travel to the site and had only seen it once. As a designer, we tend to spend time at sites, brainstorm ideas, get the feel of the entire space before we can redesign it. But since going to the site was not physically possible, they brought the site to them.
We worked entirely remotely. For that, to aid that process, we started using AR. It was first easier to actually feel the space ourselves as architects, walk around the space and actually get a feel for how large the corridor width is, how large the doors are, what the sizes of different windows and openings are. And once we got a feel for the space, we were able to then better design.
And also, in the same way that they brought the site to them, they got the final design to the clients.
Doing the usual architectural visualization step and kind of rendering out images and walkthrough videos and stuff like that. We instead took this model into AR again, the final design input that we came up with, and allowed the client to actually walk through the site as if they were walking through the final design. They were able to walk around and understand what the final site would feel like rather than just look like.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring this story to you is to tell you that the technology behind it is not years away. It is here now, and it's slowly catching on. So the metaverse might not just mean futuristic and fantastic forms. It might mean new ways of looking at and aiding processes that architects take part in right now. There are loads of companies who've started giving virtual immersive tours to their clients of their future designs or real estate projects. And as we move ahead in the next decade, this is going to become more mainstream all over the world. But can this go beyond just the designing stage? There was this one professor back in architecture school, and he used to say, architecture is not just about designing beautiful buildings. It is also about constructing them. Details, he used to say, details are important. So when we talk about the metaverse, will it just remain till the design stage, building these fantastic forms and viewing them? Or can it actually become an active part of the construction process? Well, it turns out it can. This is the use of digital reality to aid in the construction of our real world. And the company behind this is Hologram. I actually sat down with the founders to understand more of what they do.
So Hologram is a tool for building mixed reality applications in Rhino and Grasshopper, which lets you skip the learning curve of game engines like Unity for building simple AR apps. We made Hologram mostly so that creatives like architects, engineers, artists, students that make things could get stuck into building all of the kind of crazy ideas they had for mixed reality without needing to go learn to code and things like that.
I wanted to go deeper into their work to understand how the technology is helping the construction sector. We talked about one of their recent projects, the Hobart Hospital development.
Anyone working with 3D models can use Hologram to build in augmented reality. This includes bricklayers such as Colin from Old Brick, who are now comfortable in using it in their challenging day-to-day projects.
Basically, with the main thing around the Hobart Hospital was the complexity of the layout of these brick benches. So as a sort of 15-story tower, they had to build these brick benches over multiple levels. And the traditional way to lay that out is extremely complex because you basically have all these curved arches that need to connect. And so the traditional way to do it, you basically you use a hollow-time lane setting up, and then you have one brick layer that starts, I guess, at the head of the snake and then proceeds to go along. And in a very trial and error fashion, connect the bricks together, because obviously with a curve, there's a whole lot of different cutted bricks they need to do. And it really is a case where it's one layer with a couple of apprentices that is chopping up bricks, and he's just trying to put the jigsaw together. Where Hologram completely changed the game for that is that we provided not only the cutting patterns that they had to see, so they could see what bricks they needed to cut, and so they could prepare those in advance or concurrently when that's going on and bringing those bricks up. And so it's literally like, all right, here's the J bricks here or here's the K bricks for the bricklayer. They could pick it up, and then with the headset, they could see exactly where that brick needed to be placed.
A simple interface allows bricklayers to view each course they're on and what cut brick types are required in that moment.
So basically, they were able to guide the bricklayers to create complex geometries in a simple and easy manner. The word democratizing complexity is what came to my mind when we were chatting. So metaverse as a whole might be a few years away, and we will see what it can truly do. But clearly the technologies that the metaverse is relying on are here now, and they are helping drive and evolve the profession of architecture, whether it is creating a completely new immersive world, changing the design process, or becoming a part of the construction. The future of the metaverse is bound and limited only by people's capabilities and their imaginations. I, for one, am excited to see these new worlds or see the change in our existing one. And I'm glad that people driving these are architects, or should we call them architects of the metaverse.
Ini adalah akhir perkuliahan.
And there you have it, guys, the architects of the metaverse. Of course, this was the first of many such stories.
Kita akhir perkuliahan. Kalian masih ada kuliah lagi? Oke, ini terlambat. Ini siapa yang habis ini? Iki setelah 15 menit. Ini udah datang. Oke. Kuliahnya saya akhirnya agak buru-buru karena nanti berganti dengan dosen lain. Yang